friends, let's get started with our math lesson today. Okay, so before we start our lesson, we're going to look at our mathematical practices. I'm not sure if you remember them from last year, but I'm going to go over them. So these are our standards for mathematical practice. In the lesson today, we're going to use practices 2, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 2, think about what makes sense when you're learning today. 5, use tools strategically. Use the right tools, and they are not toys. Practice 6, attend to precision. Check your work. Make sure you're doing your work correctly and you're checking it. Practice 7, look for and make use of structure. Look for the patterns or connections. This is a big part of our lesson today. And math practice 8, look for and express repeated reasoning and see how the patterns connect also. So that's all part of our lesson today. Let's look at our objective. We will use identify and explore patterns in additions facts. Patterns here. Who knows what that word patterns means? What is a pattern? That's what I want you to think about today in your lesson. Our topic 1 essential question is, what are the strategies for finding addition and subtraction facts? So let's look at our solve and share. This is on page 23 of your workbook, page 23. Look at the sums on an addition facts table for adding 0 to 5. This addition facts table is a fun tool that we can use. Describe one of the patterns that you see. Use words or colors or addition facts to describe the patterns. So what I want you to do, friends, is work on this problem, pause, work on the problem, and then come back to me. All right, friends, you have worked on your problem. So let's look at some friends' work, how they solved this problem. So Manny, he highlighted these numbers 5 going down in a diagonal. Then he wrote 0 plus 5 equals 5, 1 plus 4 equals 5. So look, 0 plus 5 equals 5. 1 plus 4 equals 5. 2 plus 3 equals 5. 3 plus 2 equals 5. 4 plus 1 equals 5. And 5 plus 0 equals 5. So this is an add-in here, and this is another add-in here, and this is the sums in the middle. That's what Manny did. Let's look at Gordon's work. So these are the add-ins here, and these are the sums. So he did a little different way. So his sums are different. So he looked at 0 plus 1 equals 1. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 plus 1 equals 3. 3 plus 1 equals 4. 4 plus 1 equals 5. 5 plus 1 equals 6. What do you notice about the patterns in both of these problems, friends? What do you notice? We are going to watch our video to get a little more information. Let's go to our video.
An addition facts table is a tool to help you remember addition facts. The yellow shaded boxes represent addends. Which addends total 6 in the first white row? 6 and 0. Which addends total 6 in the second white row? 5 and 1. What is another equation you can write to show the sum of 6?
All right, let's think about that, friends. What's another equation that you could write to show the sum of 6? Here's the sum of 6. What other equation can you write here?
4 plus 2 equals 6. 4 and 2 are the addends for the sum of 6. What other equation can you write to show the sum of 6 in the third white row? 2 plus 4 equals 6. Why do both equations equal 6?
Think about that, friends. Why do both equations equal 6? What do you notice here? What do you notice here?
You can add numbers in any order, and the sum is the same. Here are all the ways to make a sum of 6.
What pattern do you see?
How are the first addends in each equation changing?
Select your answer.
So what do you see? We start with a 6 and we go down to 0. So are we increasing by 1 or decreasing by 1? We start high and then we go low. That's decreasing.
The first addends are decreasing by 1 in each equation. How are the second addends in each equation changing?
Now these guys
Select your
are
answer.
doing the opposite. They started at 0 and went up to 6. So when we start low and go higher, we increase.
The second addends are increasing by 1 in each equation. If you decrease one addend by 1 and increase the other addend by 1, the sum remains the same. What pattern do you see on the addition facts table? It makes a diagonal pattern.
So there's a diagonal pattern there. Now you might see a pattern that goes straight down, but that depends. So remember, across here, that's one addend, and down here, that's another addend. These are the sums in the middle. These are the sums in the middle. So let's practice together, friends. Let's do some practicing together. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to build our anchor chart. Let's build our anchor chart. Okay, so addition fact patterns. So let's look at these patterns together. 3 plus 1 equals 4. Okay. 4 plus 1 equals 5. What would the next number in this pattern be? Do you notice my second addend is always 1. The first addend does what? The first addend, I go from 3 to 4 to 5. So I'm increasing by 1. Now, if I look at this pattern here, the second addend, we have 1, 1, 1. So what am I going to fill in here? That would be a 1. This stays the same. This second addend stays the same. And then my sum, let's look at the sum. 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I would put an 8 in here. This also increases. By 1. So let's do some little practicing together. In your workbook, I would like for us to look at number 1 and number 2. We're going to practice those together. 1 and 2. So number 1 is filled in for us, but I just want to go over it. So we have 10 plus blank equals 16. 10 plus 6 equals 16. Now, if I wanted to figure out what that was in the middle and I wasn't sure without looking at the pattern here, I could say 16 minus 10, because that's an opposite fact, and I know that that's 6. That's where I can fill in the 6 here. Now let's look at the second one. 9 plus 7 equals 16. So if you add up 9 and 7, that's 16. Now let's look at the pattern here. What do you notice about the first add-in? The first add-in, we have a 10, and then we drop down to a 9. So the next one would be an 8, then we go to a 7, and then a 6. So this one decreases. Decreases by 1. Let's look at the second one. So we have a 6. Now if I didn't even fill in that 6, I can look at the pattern here. We have a 7, and then an 8, a 9, and a 10. So we're going to increase by 1. Guess what? Our sum stays the same. So let's look at that for number 2. Without even having to do any equations, without actually having to add, let's just look at the pattern. So I see all of the sums here are 14, and I'm missing this sum here. So that's going to be 14. Now if I'm looking at the pattern here for the first add-in, I have a 10, I skip an 8, 7, and then I skip, then I see a 9 and a 4. So let's see here. What would this pattern be? 10 plus. So see a 5 and a 6, so I would fill in a 4 here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4. Now that's a different pattern. 10, 9, 8, 7. Now I have to do an 8, 9, 10. So this is another different pattern. So here, you just want to check to make sure you have the same sum here. The same sum. So this pattern is a little different from the other pattern. We have a 10, a 9, and an 8, then a 7, but then we go up. An 8, a 9, and a 10. So this pattern kind of switches in between. So what you need to do is just go back and make sure you have the right sum here. This pattern here, we go up 4, 5, 6, 7, then we decrease 6, 5, and 4. The sum is always the same, but this pattern does change. So see, make sure you're checking your equations here to make sure they're right, to know if the pattern changes. Okay, so always check your sums here. All right, friends, so if you're working in a group today, you will meet your teacher. If you're not working in a group today, I want you to do all the problems on page 25. All of the problems on page 25. I hope you have a wonderful math lesson today. Enjoy your day. Bye.